שומר עליו.
First, Andrea, thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this important and friendly gathering. No, friendly in terms of the faces that I noticed that I know, and I'm happy to see here. Is what I mean. So this is not in a way of trying to appease you so that we're not critical. Just to say that it's nice to be here. You know, it's very nice to be here. Yeah. And now, look, I mean, maybe I don't know if it is the exempt or privilege of a politician, you know, that I didn't sort of prepare an academic paper, so I will share with you some of my insights. So I guess that those insights are, after all, based upon some kind of prolonged research that I've been conducting over the years. And I'll begin with an anecdote. Yesterday, the chairperson of the parliament got married, remarried. Yes, and it was a very impressive event in terms of its scope and many other characteristics. Now, you have to imagine most of the people there, or at least a large portion of the people attending the wedding were from the Likud party, the central body of the Likud party. Now, throughout the last, I guess, few months, I've been befriending a lot of Likud members. And here I am, they were telling me, you're not going to start partying.
Guy.
You are not the right person. Because the things that you've been doing in the parliament, presenting those social issues, multiculturalism, and even one of them said to me, well, look, I see you as a very dangerous person. I said, yes, why? Why is that? He said, because, I identify you as a leftist. But you're also a guy who's trying to bring together, religiosity and social issues. And this is a danger for us because you're sort of rubbing some of our agenda, and you belong to the Labour Party. I don't like it very much. So it was, I have to say that it was a wonderful compliment that, that he was endoing upon me. Now, as to the question, when we're talking about multiculturalism, to what extent it can promote peace negotiations and reconciliation. I think that when I'm talking about peace, it is some kind of going to some kind of reduction. Peace, the way that we understand it, is kind of an arrangement. How we're dividing the land and what kind of other arrangements we have is with the refugee issues, what we're going to do with Jerusalem, and so forth and so on. And maybe the better word is, for me, is to talk about reconciliation. And here, a distinction that I've been making in my research about multiculturalism, whereby I distinguish between multiculturalism and common spaces versus multiculturalism in separate spaces. And now this distinction ought to be implemented or ought to be assessed vis-a-vis the relationship between different groups of people. Now, there was some kind of misunderstanding as to the multicultural project that I'm abiding by, to which I'm committed. I never was advocating multiculturalism in separate spaces. What I thought is, at least as it concerns Mizrahi Jews of my ilk, which means not ultra-Orthodox Jews, I thought when I was talking about multiculturalism, is an attempt to revise and reformulate the Israeli collective imagination, the Israeli collective identity, so that the heritage and the history of the people of Middle Eastern countries would be an integral part of the way that Israel thinks of itself and imagines itself. Now, of course, when I'm talking about that, and this is maybe I have, not maybe, to make two comments. When we're talking about these issues, it's very important to borrow two sort of postmodern insight, but I'm a moderate postmodernist. So, no, I mean there are some important distinctions here, and we have no time to elaborate on those issues. When I'm talking about two postmodernist insights or elements, I'm talking about contingency, and I'm talking about perceptions. Of course, perception has some kind of relationship with reality, but with that, there's kind of tenuous relationship between perception and reality. There is a relationship, but it should not be looked upon as very much abiding. What I mean by that even when I'm talking about Middle Eastern heritage and so forth and so on, so people will define it. Well, it is a problem with defining it. It is not some kind of an essence that we can have a grip on and say, well, this is exactly what I want. And even if we are talking about Middle Eastern heritage and history, it is the one that Mizrahi Jews imagine to be the case. Right? So the fact that, we're listening to, we have created some kind of, in a way artificial, in another way, very real Mizrahi identity, gleaning various characteristics from our history, from Yona, from Morocco, and so forth and so on. So it doesn't have a very strong relationship to the origin, but nonetheless, it is very real. So when we're talking about that, about how sort of inserting and stealing those heritage, within Israeli society or the way it imagines itself, it has a lot to do with the possibility of peace. What I mean by that, how to what extent multiculturalism is consistent and it is able to promote the issue of peace. I mean that we've got to have the background conditions in which we don't have. And what I mean by that, that in entirety the Israeli society is very much alienated from its surrounding, cultural surrounding. And I'm bemoaning this state of affair for quite a long time, that we are in the Middle East, but I'm describing it as a consistent, persistent attempt to expel ourselves from the Middle East symbolically. Symbolically. All the time, in a way that official Israel is trying to expel itself from the Middle East. And of course, this sort of expulsion has institutional manifestations. We want to be in the NATO, we want to be EuroLeague, we want to be Eurovision, you want to be this, you want to be that. Right? There are institutional manifestations to that. And even, by the way, if I may, 11 minutes.
You got 1.5 minutes.
Think about the issues that are happening now today in Tel Aviv and the Sarona terrorist attack. And I was not altogether informed about the origin of this place, the Sarona. It went through a lot of changes throughout history. But you know that this place was occupied at the time by Germans who were all associated with the Nazi party. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And just look about the zeal with which we want to renovate this place. The city of Tel Aviv is putting 100 millions of shekels to renovate these neighborhoods. It looks wonderful. You go there, you are in Europe. And think about all other neighborhoods that yearning for renovation, yearning for renewal projects, like the Argazim, like Givat Hamal. They look like, some kind of Arab, disorganized villages. The way that how the city ignores them, disparaging of them. It's some kind of a foolish anecdote that tells a lot about the way that we treat ourselves and me.
You used to the Knesset, so please.
I'll say
One last sentence.
last sentence. Okay. I don't want to challenge you to say what the crowd would do.
It's only fair.
but
It's
No,
only.
okay, a minute, Henry,
Okay.
a minute. So what I'm saying, that when I talk about this sort of background conditions and the hostility, especially, of course, some kind of concocted hostility. We were talking about contingency, the way that Mizrahi Jews view our culture with the Arabs and so forth and so on. It is a very interesting way, and in one way, there is a meshing with them culturally, in another way, they are totally alienated from them. And this is sort of a starting point for a discussion, the way that how I want to conclude this point, how we are imagining our collective identity, the fact that the culture and heritage of the Islamic world does not have the kind of legitimacy within the emerging, renewed Israeli society. Now, if we would have done that, multiculturalism, the way that I envision it, might be very conducive to reaching some kind of conciliation with the Arab world. So it is not the multiculturalism that people think of it, that sort of to be manifested and separate spaces. I hope you're going to challenge me with questions later on, so we have an opportunity to expand on this issue. Thank you very much.
Not to Yossi, but to you, I'm sure all of us would love to go on with this.